Hello and welcome to the Peacekeeper Project. My name is Ben. Today I'd like to talk about communication and why emotional intelligence is such an important key to effective and connected communication. But first, communication is such an important part of life. It's really an essential life skill because much of our life we're interacting or communicating with other people. So whether we're talking with and communicating with our intimate spouse, family member, friends, or workmates. When we're talking, when we're communicating and we do it well, it helps us to deepen connection between us. It brings us closer together. It helps us to understand each other. It helps us to express how we feel. We can express our boundaries. We can express what we like, what we don't like, what is okay and what is not okay. And this is really important for building healthy and connected relationships. So communication is important. But one of the most important ingredients for connected communication is emotional intelligence. Because even if we know how we're supposed to communicate, maybe you've read books or taken a course, or maybe you just know, it's not always that simple because sometimes emotions are stirred up and they take over. For example, maybe you're talking with a family member or your close relationship, spousal relationship, and they say something and it upsets you. You get offended and it brings up all of this emotion. Now, that's sometimes okay to navigate, but when that emotion is intense enough, strong enough, then it takes over. It kicks us out of the driver's seat and it's in charge. It basically puts us into a disconnected state where we feel more separate from the people we're talking to. And inside, there's a feeling of you versus me. And this is something I talked more about in a previous video, Understanding Connection, Part 1, where I talk more about this fundamental level of feeling connected versus disconnected. And I'll leave a link for that at the end of the video so you can check that out. And I highly recommend that you watch that one. But when we're emotional, when we're reactive, and then we're in this disconnected state, then we tend to communicate from that state of disconnection. And that leads us to say things and do things that we're usually not proud of later on when we've had time to reflect. So this is why emotional intelligence is so important when it comes to communication. And I like to think of emotional intelligence like this in a very simple way. Emotional intelligence helps us to stay in the driver's seat of our life. So this is true not just for communication, but generally for life, navigating life. Now, when we develop this ability to be present to our emotions without them taking over, which is part of emotional intelligence, then when we're talking with someone and they say something and it stirs up some emotion inside us, then we have this ability to just feel that emotion without it taking over and fueling the things we do and the things we say. Now, this doesn't mean we suppress the emotion. It means we're able to feel it consciously without it taking over. And this means that we can maintain conscious, connected, mature conversations. We can take responsibility for how we feel. We can recognize the difference between speaking from a reaction and speaking from a higher place while a reaction is happening inside us. And this taking responsibility for how we feel means we don't get caught into blaming others for how we feel. And sometimes it means we express that we need to take a time out, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because we can feel our emotions bubbling up, and if we let it go too far, it will take over. So there's a certain amount of emotional intelligence in that. And communicating that effectively is much more efficient or effective than letting that emotion go too far and leading to an argument and fueling our words and the things that we say. So building emotional intelligence into our communication really helps us to establish much better connection between the people we care about, the people we're interacting with, especially on a regular basis, like family, friends, and intimate partners. But at times our emotions do get the best of it. It happens to all of us. So we don't want to judge it as good, bad, right, or wrong necessarily, but it is helpful to understand what is going on and making a choice about how we want to be. and maybe it's a pattern for you that you do react a lot. But something I want you to know is that just because you might have always reacted a certain way in the past does not mean it always has to be that way in the future. It can be learned, and if you aspire to grow and deepen the connections you have with the people you care about, then you can. You can do it and learn through communication. But the point I'm trying to make here is that while communication is important, emotional intelligence is what is going to make it work. And the thing is that when you develop emotional intelligence, the way we communicate naturally becomes a more connected experience. And the other beautiful thing about developing emotional intelligence is that it not only deepens the relationships and the connections that you have, but it deepens your own life. It improves your own sense of well-being, your mental and emotional well-being, your confidence in yourself because you understand yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll never have emotions being stirred up inside you. This will happen from time to time, but you'll have the skills and the ability to navigate those more smoothly. All right, now, if you'd like to know more about emotional intelligence, then I recommend watching a previous video of mine, What is Emotional Intelligence?, where I dive into that subject a lot more and I break down the 4 main aspects of emotional intelligence. And I'll leave a link at the end of the description if you'd like to watch that one. And if you'd like to know how I can help you personally, then you can find out more at peacekeeperproject.com. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Right, now, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help to build the channel so that more videos can be seen by people like you. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. But thank you for being here, and I appreciate your presence. Until the next time, quiet your mind and live from your heart.